Hello and welcome back. My name is V, and today I'd like to talk about something that I feel like I should have addressed before starting my Final Fantasy IX playthrough offline here on YouTube, because I've historically been doing these Final Fantasy playthroughs on stream. I feel like I somewhat owe some people an explanation on why I've decided to upload this particular playthrough as an offline playthrough, and why I intend to keep that trend going, and for me what the difference is between the experience that I have on stream when streaming Final Fantasy games and when I'm uploading them here on YouTube as offline pre-recorded edited playthroughs. If you happen to be new on the channel, make sure to press that sub button. Apart from Final Fantasy and RPGs in general, I do all of my variety content here. So if RPGs, jrpgs, action games occasionally, and card games like Hearthstone are your cup of tea, I think you'll like it here. So let's talk about the Final Fantasy experience, especially when it comes to streamers' experience for the entire franchise. I think that this is more than obvious to anyone who's watching this video, but when it comes to streaming Final Fantasy, considering just how story oriented these games are, I am starting to really enjoy the experience where I'm not getting myself accidentally spoiled on stream. Sometimes these things are very accidental. Sometimes I will be streaming on YouTube as well, and I will put a picture onto a thumbnail, and someone who is tuning in will assume that I've reached a part of the story that I haven't reached yet, and therefore they will talk about something that's happened within the game that I haven't reached yet, which I am not going to go ahead and say that this is my fault, because anyone who likes the game, who's a fan of it, could clearly tell that this is not something that that I've seen in the game yet. Some of the spoilers do happen to be a little bit more purposeful. For example, even when I'm off stream, from time to time I will read a spoiler on Twitter that is directly aimed at me, but that doesn't really have a lot to do with live streaming per se. I have been getting a lot of spoilers in the live chat, and I see me uploading offline playthroughs as a way to somewhat protect myself, especially when a moderator or an editor can read YouTube comments before I read them, and either delete the ones that are spoilery or just hide them from the channel or something, so that when I do go through these comments, which I do on my own, I can read a spoiler-free version of the comments and just know that I'm going to have a very safe experience playing a Final Fantasy game. Another, and probably the most important reason for me choosing to do these playthroughs offline rather than on stream, is just the overwhelming amount of backseating when it comes to some of these really popular titles. I can safely say that a large portion of my experience playing through Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X-2, Final Fantasy VII OG, and Final Fantasy VIII have really been tainted because I've been constantly getting people in the chat who would give me suggestions on what I should do, how I should optimize my playthroughs, which Guardian Forces I'm missing or need to get, which materia is where, what I need to do, and I don't consider them spoilers per se, but I have to admit that when it comes to playing through these games, I'm a very petty person. And what happens when I receive feedback in the chat like that, even though I do make sure that I have like all of the no backseating tags on Twitch, and I have like timers and commands on YouTube chat as well, I'm petty and I don't take kindly to this sort of feedback. And when I do get feedback, that turns out to be good, I still feel bad about taking this feedback and doing what someone has told me to do. So more often than not, I end up hindering my own self because I feel like the audience doesn't really want to watch a streamer who's just going to go through a game and blindly listen to something that the chat is telling them to do. And I am recognizing that these past experiences have happened mostly because I did not have a strong moderator team who was, who would be there for me to combat this behavior, to make sure to remind the chat that I don't want backseating. My channel was still going through a lot. Well, I'm gonna say a lot more growing pains than it is now, and it was very difficult to combat this behavior on my own. And I think that I felt very isolated in this crowd of Final Fantasy superfans, which eventually just made it almost impossible for me to enjoy the game. Not just when it comes to the battle mechanics and, backseating when it comes to this. It also has a lot to do with playing through the story and admitting on stream that I don't understand a part of the story. Whenever I would be confused about a cutscene or wouldn't exactly understand what was going on, people who played through the game from anywhere from 5 to 20 times would comment on that in the chat and ask me questions like, how come you don't understand what's happening? Not realizing that the first time that they played the game was probably when they were 6 or 7 years old, and they don't have a correct memory of how it was when they played through the game, and maybe didn't understand a lot, either because they were a child or because it was actually confusing for the first time players. So that's something that happened to me with, let's say, with Final Fantasy VIII playthrough. I was just as confused with Final Fantasy OG, and I think it was reasonable to be confused because I didn't understand the full story until I played Crisis Core, and I was very happy to not have been spoiled anything during that playthrough. But I think some people really, really wanted to tell me exactly what was going on with Zack and Cloud and whatnot, and how this trauma has, suppressed Cloud's memories and whatnot. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't been spoiled, and I'm very grateful for that. But at the same time, a lot of people have really made it their mission to leave a mark on my experience when it comes to streaming these games. So I've decided to, at least for now, protect myself from these playthroughs, and I know for sure that games like Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy VI, and possibly even other Final Fantasy games will be recorded and uploaded here on the channel in the form of an offline playthrough. Now, there are some other reasons why I decided that this was a good idea, and I think this one is pretty beneficial for everyone watching, and that is the fact that I feel like I'll be able to be more focused on the story itself. And this is something that I think me, along with many other streamers, have received as feedback, that we interact with the chat too much, and that when something important happens in the story, that we don't really pay attention, or that these questions that we later ask have been answered while we were talking to the chat, and later on we didn't understand it or whatever. And I feel like it overall, I feel like you're right. Whoever ever said that, in a strange way, you are right. Because these are really story-heavy games, and I want to make sure that if I don't understand a bit of the story, that I'm not stuck on stream for 6 or 7 hours watching cutscenes that I'm a little confused about. Maybe I want to record an hour or two of a playthrough, and if something happens, I can, watch the cutscene again once I finish the recording and just kind of let it digest and understand the story better, which I think in the long run is going to create a better experience on stream for anyone watching the entire playthrough, as you're going to feel like I understand the story a lot better, and like I am experiencing the story distraction-free. And this applies to not just Final Fantasy playthroughs, but any offline playthroughs that I will do. So I really do want to hear your feedback on this as well, and just kind of understand where you are at when it comes to this. Obviously, some people really enjoy the chat experience, and I am sorry for taking that away from you in a bit, but I do hope that during my live streams, when I stream the games that I am okay with streaming, that we can talk about these things, and that you can get your, live chat experience in that way without actually being there to chat while I'm playing through the game itself. So from that point of view, I really do hope that my decision compensates for that at least a little bit. And finally, this is a little bit of a selfish reason for creating these offline playthroughs. I've lately been feeling, since I started doing that is, I've been feeling like I have a lot more control over my own time, and like I can actually dedicate an hour or two on my own terms to create these playthroughs and actually upload them as videos on my own terms. So if one day I wake up really early and my kiddo is still asleep, I can just sit down and record an hour or an hour and a half of, Final Fantasy IX or whatever it is that I'm currently playing, and just call it when I have something else to do without it causing disturbances or interruptions to your experience here on YouTube. And if I happen to have more time in the night on a particular day, I want to also be in control of that time and do my playthrough then, because that's when it suits me. I've somewhat given up on being able to be there as a full-time streamer and nothing else, because I don't live that lifestyle. I am a mother at the end of the day, a partner, and a business owner, and a full-time content creator, and not just a streamer. And there are many factors that just prevent me from being able to reliably say, okay, I'm gonna stream 3 or 4 times a week for like 8 hours and just be there uninterruptedly. That's just not how my life works, and I really do hope that this is the way for me to create a really good experience for you without my life actually getting in the way, that sounds bad, getting in the way of content creation in a way that you feel like you're not getting the content consistently, or in a good quality, or in a good atmosphere, or something like that. So I really do hope that this is at the end of the day going to be good for everyone. And I know that I started this video by just talking about why I'm not doing Final Fantasy playthroughs online anymore, but I just wanted to make a little disclaimer that I think is pretty much well known to everyone who's known me as a creator. This obviously does not apply to Final Fantasy XIV, as Final Fantasy XIV is something that I choose to do online, that I choose to do with my community, and as I'm coming back to full-time content creation as soon as I'm back from my holiday, which is still where I'm at right now, I am dedicated to having those sessions, those streams, the Final Fantasy XIV ones, ongoing and uninterrupted for my Final Fantasy XIV community. And apart from that, I will also finish my Final Fantasy XIV MSQ on stream at the cost of this pretty much everything that I said in this video, and maybe even my own experience a little bit. I still see Final Fantasy XIV as a community thing, and I really want to keep it to my live streams as well as my other YouTube channel, which is now called V Plays MMO. And if it's not uploaded yet, it will be, but I made another video on my V Plays MMO channel where I am discussing the channel name change that went from Mom's Den to V Plays MMO. So do check that out as well if you haven't done so yet. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give me your thoughts in the comments as well. I am dying to hear what you think about these offline playthroughs, if this is something you're interested in. And of course, if you haven't checked out my Final Fantasy IX playthrough here on the channel, make sure to do so as well. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, have a wonderful rest of your day, and bye-bye.